All right, what's up, international sports chiropractors? We are back. We are back doing this four-part series with Dr. Stephen Franson. Doc, it's great to have you back, brother.
What's up, Dr. J? Great to be here, man.
So listen, let's talk about high level first, like what we're covering over the next several weeks, and then I'm just going to let you dig into the next stage of practice evolution. So let's
Sounds
chat.
great. Sounds great. So we started this series looking across what we call the four seasons of the chiropractic career. So we created this construct to help chiropractors just self-identify, right? So where am I? Where am my career? What are the characteristics of the season that I'm in? What are the goals that I'm trying to achieve? What are the challenges I'm facing in that process, right? So we identified four seasons of the chiropractic career. So there's launch, build, scale, and exit. So launch is that first year out in practice. Build is when you are in your second year and beyond, where you are the owner operator. You are the DC that's actually delivering the healthcare, right? But you're the sole DC in there, right? So you're the doctor that is the guy who or the gal who's head down, bum up, delivering chiropractic care and the rest of the related sort of ancillary services in the practice. Then there's scale season when you have hired an additional associate doctor so you can actually deliver care even in your absence. It's called durability. And then there's the exit season when you're looking for your successor and you're looking to make a graceful and profitable exit. So the last time we were together, we talked about launch. Today, we're going to be talking about the build season, which is probably where I would say probably the majority of chiropractors that listen to this probably find themselves in their build season.
Yep. Yep, for sure. It is a really cool construct of what you've built and what you teach. And let's just dive right into build. What are some of the challenges? What are some of the obstacles that you're seeing chiropractors face during this stage? And what can they do to overcome those challenges to be most successful to get them to that next season of scale?
Yep, that's great. So I think all of us want the same things, right? So we would love to be able to go through those all four seasons with this beautiful linear trajectory, right? Just going and growing as we go. But the truth is that there are gaps that all of us come across as we go, and those gaps are typically predictive of the season. Uh, in the build season, really the most common gaps that we'll see is first is what we call the replacements gap. Okay, so a replacements gap is where you actually do have new patients coming into the office, but because of a system's weakness or breakdown or training or what have you, they get a weak start, right? So there's either wonky recommendations that are made or there's poor agreements, expectations and agreements are lacking. So there's limited patient buy-in or clarity. So you get wonky compliance, which means you don't get the results that you're looking for or they're looking for. So typically you'll see this patient dropout, right? So instead of just going and growing, you end up getting stuck into this bit of an eddy, if you will, where you have patients that are dropping out of care. So you have to start new patients, and we call those replacements, even just to maintain where you are, right? So we call that the replacements gap, right? So that's a very common one. The second most common one we see in build is the inability to put together a team. Okay, so we call this the scalability cap because scalability implies that you can give more, love more, serve more, do more, accomplish more, make a bigger impact and a bigger income. But it doesn't have to all be done by you, right? So you can start to delegate across your team members, right? So you can actually scale and do more, right? So, but it doesn't have to be by a pound of your flesh and an hour of your time. So if you can't put together a great team or hold on to great players or create a level of scalability through scaling their skill sets and doing great delegation, et cetera, you end up having this scalability gap. So very often it leads to people just seeing inability to attract A players or worse, keep their A players. So I'd say that's the second most common gap. And then
Yeah.
the third one, which is one I think we'll unpack together, is really the root cause of all of these, right? Which is the systems gap, right? So systems gap, my moniker is I'm the systems guy. I think everything should be systematized. So just like with our clinical care, how we systematize everything so that we can get predictable positive outcomes, better outcomes for people. We need to
Yep.
systematize everything in every aspect of the practice of the business, right? So the truth, Jay. If you don't systematize things, you can't delegate them. If you can't hold people accountable, right? So you can't train up on people that things aren't systematized. So that's the third and probably most common one, and that's called the systems gap.
Yeah, I mean, before we unpack that piece though, I mean, I really want to talk about the people piece because, I know you've read this book and for, you sports chiros out there, if you've never read Good to Great by Jim Collins, it is a must read. It's everything from, what does great leadership look like to your people. And first to then what is chapter number 2. And I think and I was speaking at a mastermind this past weekend and definitely like even having a recruiting process. Like I put up our recruiting process on the board in the spirit of systems, my friend, and people were taking pictures and they like didn't even think that there should be a process around recruiting. So can we just touch on that a bit, like why that's so important to get the right people in the right seats on the bus, and like a step by step, I know high level because we don't have a lot of time, but high level systems approach to that.
Yeah, it's absolutely critical. In fact, I'm just coming off of last weekend teaching
Yeah,
team
you had
building,
a big event
remarkable,
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
remarkable team building immersion in Dallas. And truth be told, I've been coaching and teaching chiropractors for 20 years. And, if you look at old footage from 10 years back, you'd see me talking about the systems of practice success or the domains of practice success. And it was always about attraction, conversion, and retention on top of your clinical systems, right? Attractions, marketing, conversion would be sales and compelling people to commit to their care plans. And then, of course, retention is, building value and creating long-term relationships with people. So attraction, conversion, retention. And, truth be told, as soon as I stepped off the stage or got a doctor on the line or somebody bought me a cup of coffee, the conversations were always about their team. It was about their people. So
Yep.
initially I was kind of taken back by that and almost frustrated me like, you guys are overcomplicating this. It's attraction, conversion, retention. Truth be told, it was my blind spot. And I said, you know what? Geez, these people don't know how to attract and build great teams. And we need to start teaching that. And here we are 10 years later, and is without a doubt my favorite subject matter to teach and absolutely our best content. So, you started the conversation here. It's what we call the four rights, right? So it's about getting the right people in the right role, doing the right work the right way, right? So the right people, they're what we call A players, right? So there's A players and everyone else. They have to share your core values, right? Not just buy into your core values, but share them and demonstrate them. And they have to buy into your vision story, which is what does success look like for this business? So
Yep.
that's that first right, Jay, right? The first seat. Then the next step is to get them in the right seat or the right role, right? So the right role in your team, or what we call a function or position on your team, that's the wicked hard part, right? So it's making sure you get the right person in the right role, right? So then it's get them to do the right work, which is how do you get them to focus on what's important now specifically in order to reach your goals, and then get them to do it the right way, which is training.
Yeah. I love it, man. I love it. I love the fact that you can break it down really, really simply for the docs because it is so critically important. We know from the evidence, quite frankly, that if you want to drive great patient satisfaction and loyalty, it starts with building a great team. Those two things are statistically related, and that's been studied many, many times. So, love that framework. So, I know we could sit here and talk all day. We've got a limited amount of time. Let's get into the systems piece, Doc. How do docs even begin to start to understand how to build the right systems for their practice so they can literally build through this season?
Yeah, so look across the domains of your business, right? So I summarized it with attraction, conversion, retention. Then we can add on to that team building and collections. Let's talk about the financial piece. So we call those the five primary domains of a business, right? And we break those down into three subdomains. So we have 15 primary functions of the business. And what I say is these are the 15 things that are happening in your practice. Obviously a full discussion of all 15 of those things are outside of the scope of this conversation, but you've got to identify what are the primary functions of your business, right? So for example, when it came to that first attraction marketing, there's internal, external, and digital marketing, right? Those are the
Yep.
three subdomains, right? Internal marketing is referrals, external marketing is any of your networking and paraprofessional relationships, and then digital marketing is what you do online, right? So there's an example of have three primary functions when it comes to marketing, right? So you've got to ask the question, who owns that? Right? That's the
Hmm.
most important question, Jay. It's like we have a system and someone's accountable to it, right? So now you can say, all right, so is that system optimized? Is that function optimized? And is the person that owns it, are they aware that they own it? Are they held accountable to it? Do we have expectations and agreements around that? And you have to have a system around each of those 15, right? So in other words, do you have an SOP? Do you have SOPs is just that standard operating procedure? Do you have a defined process? and is it captured? And this is when everybody goes, oh, and I'm like, if it's not written down, it doesn't exist, right? So
Exactly.
you have to have a manual. You have to have that system defined. It has to be something where you can say, welcome to the practice, Dr. J. You're in charge of the conversion process. Here is the conversion process, right? So day 1, day 2, day 3, right? This is our SOP, our standard operating procedure. This is what we do, when we do it, how we do it, and what we say when we do it, right? So, and it lives in a manual, right? So now that's something that is systematized that you can train someone on and hold them accountable to doing it well.
That's awesome. If a doc is literally just getting started, you mentioned those first 3 domains, right? Um, what's the easiest and best way to get started in your mind? I've got some thoughts on this, but would love to hear how they got nothing, right? They got nothing written down, no manual, nothing.
Yeah.
Where do you
This
think
is
they
a
should
this is
start?
a no-brainer, Jay, right? So, and I'm a massive advocate for coaching, right? So you need don't try to make this up. You don't need to make it up, right? So what you've got to do is you got to figure out who in the field practices the way you practice. You love the way they practice, their style of practice, the culture of their practice, the way they apply their techniques, or the type of person, the people that they take care of, the problems they like to solve, etc. Find some doctors, shadow them, figure out exactly what systems they're utilizing and what coaching they're receiving, and go and seek out the coaching. You know as well as I do, it's the big accelerator button. You could
100%.
spend 5, 10 years trying to figure it out yourself. Why would you do that? Like, you didn't do that with your technique. What did you do? You observed different clinicians. You figured out, oh, I really like that technique. Please teach me that technique. You didn't spend 15 or 20 years trying to figure out how to solve clinical problems. Why would you do that with practice and business problems, right? So find a great coach that resonates with you. Find a system that resonates with you. You say, man, that's going to produce the kind of practice I have, and take it in, become a great student, master that system, and then make it your own.
I love it, man. Great advice out there. Fix people. Great advice. So we only have a few minutes left. Stephen, let's talk about what's next. What are we going to be learning in the next Facebook Live event that we're doing?
So beautiful. So we're going to go into the next season, which is scale. So we're
So,
coming from build right now, and we're going into scale. So build is a wonderful season of your career. Okay. So some doctors spend 3 years there, some spend 33 years here. But here's the blind spot they have is you don't want to go launch, build, and try to exit, because exit is a totally different animal if you're stuck in build, right?
yeah,
Because let's face it, you don't own a business, you own a job, right? So, and nobody wants to buy your job, right? So, what we want to do is we want to take that job and turn it into a business and then sell that business, right? So, there's a critical thing here, and there's obviously lots of advantages to going to scale, making a bigger impact, making a bigger income, right? Creating durability so you claw back your time freedom, right? So, it's something that is far more sustainable and frankly more fulfilling and brings more joy, right? It's about bringing in other doctors, right? So bringing in other providers. So in our next conversation, we're talking about how to go from build into scale so that you can exit very well. And even if that's 30 years away, right? There's nothing like building it to sell it today.
yeah, I love it. And a lot of doctors that we talk to, I know you have these same experiences. They ask, like, how did you do what you did? How did you get to the point where you could step out of clinical practice and do the things that you want to do, have the time that you want to have? So this is a really great conversation. I know the docs are going to get a lot out of next week as well. Stephen, really quickly, how can people get a hold of you? Because I know there are people out there like, how do I talk to this dude?
So I'm easy to find. Our group is the Remarkable Practice. So on Facebook, if you're here on Facebook, go to the Remarkable Practice. We have a free group. That's a private group that you can apply to, and we'll let you into the group if you're a chiropractor. That's a great place to get a sense of who we are, and we can help you solve some issues and reach some goals. We've got awesome coaches and a great community in there, and I'm in there all the time. Otherwise you can follow me on Instagram. I'm at Dr. Stephen F, or Dr. Stephen with a PHF. So Dr. Stephen Franson on Instagram. Very active there as well. Or go to theremarkablepractice.com and check us out on the website. So Jay, I'd love to be able to do a giveaway here.
Wait, hold on. Speaking of giveaway, before you do that, Ross, I saw your comment. We will get you your book. Don't worry, we got you covered. We'll make sure that happens. And Dr. Mustafa, past president of Fix, has joined us. So thank you for joining us today, Mustafa. Great to see you.
Mustafa, good to see you, man. All right, yeah. So we'll make sure to get that book out. Just get me that address, and I'd be happy to send it a signed copy of the book.
And now another
Uh,
giveaway.
So the giveaway today is really one of my favorite tools when it comes to getting your systems in place, okay, and creating accountability, right? So it's called the scoreboard, excuse me, the scorecard. So we're going to do the scorecard giveaway, which is one of the most powerful tools that we have, which really helps when it comes to getting that right person in the right seat. Once you get them in the right seat, it's about helping them focus on doing the right work. Right way is training. Right work is, this is what I want you to be focusing on right now, which is one of the hardest things to do, is to create that level of clarity, right? So we all have a lot of moving parts in our practice, and we all have a lot of busyness in our practice. The scorecard helps you establish very clear focus, and focus is what makes the difference between busyness and productivity.
Love it, man. Love it. Well, we'll make sure that, well, how are we going to give this away? So you tell us, what do they got to
So
do?
you're gonna get. I'm gonna give you a link to put here down here in the show notes. They click the link and they can go and they can get an actual fillable PDF of the scorecard that they can use with their. They can use it today with their team members. And there's also a video training that unpacks it, so they understand exactly how to do it and how to do it right. So
That's fantastic.
it's one of the most powerful tools that we have. So psyched to give it to you guys.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Stephen. Thank you for your generosity with your time, with your giveaways. Folks, that scorecard is critical. We use one in our practice, has to be part of your systems.
Yep.
Dr. Franson, you, my friend, are the man. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you next week.
It's my pleasure. We'll get together. We're talking about the scale season. Let's learn how to do that right.
Yeah, buddy. Good to see you, man. Thank you.